Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Puck on the Parkway. If you don't see smiles on our faces if you're watching on YouTube, I think you'll know why. The New Jersey Devils limping into the Olympic break with just 2 points in their final four games. They got 25 games left, Dan Rebane, to make something out of the 2025-26 NHL season. But as it stands, they've got a better likelihood of getting the first overall pick at this point. Um, we're going to talk about how we got here, how the Devils can go about this final stretch of the season and what to expect moving forward. But first and foremost, Dan, I know it's probably the writing's on the wall with how you're going to answer this question, but how are you doing?
Yeah, not well, man. I would wave the white flag, but I don't have one in here. But yeah, it's time. It's over. I think, it is what it is at this point of the season. Just, the players aren't playing up to their standards. Coaching hasn't been good. The front office has been abysmal. Everything's gone wrong for this team this year, and yeah, they are where they are with 25 games left, and that's 11 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff going around. I'm James Burley. He's Dan Rebane. Welcome to Puck on the Parkway. Um, and it's not just been the stuff on the ice. Off the ice, things aren't helped any better by the speculation over what Jack Hughes meant in his latest interview, and Sheldon Keefe speaking about the team system, and just everybody is the vibes just could not be worse. I don't think. And this Devils team certainly has. They've had injuries. They've had bad bounces here and there, but they've had no excuse to be this bad. And that's what we'll talk about. Last time we spoke, Dan, we were previewing their final four games before the Olympics, three of which would be on home ice. And we said if they don't get at least 6 points in this stretch, it's going to be a mountain decline for them to get back into the playoffs. They're 11 points out of a playoff spot, seventh in the Metropolitan Division. The only team worse than them is the New York Rangers. So at least there's something there. Um, but just 2 points in their final four games, a 3-2 overtime win against the Nashville Predators, followed that up by three games in which, Dan, they were in it going into the third period. And we'll talk about what Sheldon Keefe said with regards to the system of play. But I have to agree with him somewhat in that, they're playing decent enough hockey where they belong in these games. It's just a matter of can they actually pull out a win? And they can't score goals. See, how can
Yeah.
you win if you don't score goals? They lose 4-1 to the Senators on the road, and then they follow that up with a 3-0 loss to the Blue Jackets and a 3-1 loss to the Islanders, who have essentially taken the position that the Devils belonged in as one of those second or third teams in the division behind the Hurricanes. And, they don't look like they're slowing down anytime soon, the Islanders. So props to Patrick Waugh and what they've been able to do over there. But for the Devils, I mean, you said it best, Dan, before we started recording. They've been outscored 8-0 in the third in these last three games, and which is shocking considering how good they are as a third period team when they have the lead after two periods. But they just can't figure out how to bounce back from adversity. And that has been the story of the Devils season. Once Jack Hughes got injured in November, the wheels fell off the wagon, and they have not been able to get a pit stop and patch things back up. So before we take a peek at some of the quotes that have come off the ice, just talk to me about these last four games and what you've seen and what it means for this Devils team.
Yeah, and I kind of want to go back even further, right? That Western trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't stop a nosebleed going into that trip. They go out there and they fix, mostly their defensive game. They start shutting teams down like Connor McDavid, keeping them off the score sheet for the first time in however many games it was. I think it was like
17-game point streak.
17 point streak, right? They come back home and they're still playing defensively good, but they just for them focusing on their defensive game, they just are lacking it. They're lacking offensive output now, and you said it right there. Two goals in the last three games, like that's unacceptable. You can't win games without scoring goals. Even I mean, if you keep a team off the scoreboard, you still can't win a game unless you score a goal. So to go into third periods, tied at the very least. In all three of these games, they're in the game. And then you just can't score in the third period. It's mind-boggling. It's frustrating, especially for the players. Like, you know, there's certain games where they're creating these chances. We just saw it last night. They create two breakaways, can't score. Dawson Mercer hits the crossbar after getting Sorokin down. Who's the second one? Was it Jesper Brad again?
Yep.
Yes, Jesper Brad, another breakaway you can't finish. So, it's on the players to kind of get out of this slump. But I mean, it's kind of crazy when you look down the roster that everybody's slumping at this point in the season, and that just never happens for any team in the league. Like even for the bad teams, like they'll have a couple of guys here and there that aren't going on hot streaks, but for the past a handful of games, nobody's scoring for this team, and it's I'm speechless. Like this might be the worst like scoring team I've seen from the Devils in my lifetime. And like we've seen bad years for this team, and they weren't this bad at scoring goals. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. And that's why they're in this predicament, down 11 points, heading into 25 games left in the season. Like if you're not scoring goals, you don't deserve to make the playoffs, and they deserve to be where they're at this point.
If you look at just the points totals, it's Nico Heishier's got 42 points in 57 games played, and 15 points away from being point per game as your top scorer in this era of the NHL is not going to cut it. And that's not
Yep.
me piling on Nico Hischier because you can tell how much effort he's putting into each of these games. I mean, he has to play a 200-foot game every time. It's just the type of player he is. And just post game press conferences, you can just feel the frustration off of him. It's just they haven't been able to shake that. And I'm glad you brought up the Western Canada road trip because until they got to Seattle, it looked like they found a groove. It
Hmm.
wasn't perfect, but they found a way to claw out wins, which is something that defined this team's success with this core just 2 years ago.
Hmm.
And now they've fallen away from that. It's gone by the wayside, which is so hard to explain. And this is not the first time in this season that that's been the case because I look back to the end of December where they snuck out a win against the Blue Jackets and then they followed that up with a huge win on January 3rd against the Mammoth. And it
Hmm.
felt like they were finally hitting a groove. And then in the week following that, they lose four straight, one of which is a 9-0 loss to the Islanders.
Hmm.
So it's been beyond time to wave the white flag, in my opinion, Dan. I think we were just being the delusional supporters that we are and tried to convince ourselves that they were going to figure it out because this team just on paper is too good to not have figured it out.
Too good.
There is no reason why six teams in this division should be ahead of them. I don't
Hmm.
care who's injured. That's ridiculous. And that's why I kind of agree with Sheldon Keefe when he says there's nothing wrong with the system. Like I is there nothing wrong? I would disagree with that, but for him to throw his players under the bus, it's a bad look. But if you're watching the games, you kind of have to agree with him. You have to believe that they're doing enough to win hockey games. It's just can they execute in those moments, and they just haven't been getting bounces. And in hockey, Dan, you know this better than anybody. You don't just get good luck. You have to create good luck,
Yeah.
and that comes from doing the intangibles right. And they don't play a game for 60 minutes. I don't think I've
No.
seen, not since October and maybe early November, have I seen a 60-minute performance from this Devils team. Even those games in Western Canada, the Pacific Northwest, where they clawed out wins, they almost let it slip against Vancouver.
Hmm.
They almost let it slip against Edmonton. And Calgary, they had to come from behind and win in overtime. So it's not been a finished product, and that's on management. You can say that the system is the right system for them to play, sure, but if nothing gives, you're not going to get rid of Heishier, Bratt, Hughes, Meyer. Like you're not going to. You could maybe get rid of one of those guys, and even that's a big if, right? But this core is going to be together for many more years into the future. At least a good portion of this core.
Yeah.
I think Sheldon Keefe. I think he's a good coach. I
Hmm.
legitimately think he's a good coach, and I think he was the right hire for this team, considering the type of team he coached in Toronto, where he never had a good defense, and now he's got a good defense, but now it's all he has. I think it's time to say at the end of the season, go in a different direction, and we've been very vocal about Tom Fitzgerald, as has every New Jersey Devils fan. It's beyond time for him to go. This has been a disaster of a season, and I think it'd be unfair to look at him and say he's not the main culprit.
Yeah, I think we've tried to give both Sheldon Keefe and Tom Fitzgerald the longest leash possible. Like right, like Sheldon Keefe, we've seen it. He's a good coach. That first part of the season last year, one of the best teams in the NHL heading into Christmas. Since the turn of the calendar to 2025, this has been one of the worst teams in the NHL. They're bottom five or bottom 10, possibly bottom five record wise. Like I don't know what it is. I like to go from one of the best teams in the NHL, right, heading into that Christmas break, to now being one of the worst teams in the NHL. I don't know what happened in that Christmas break. I think we that there needs to be a book written about that Christmas break for the New Jersey Devils because that's probably gotten multiple people traded and two people fired in the long run, right? So yeah, I think Sheldon Keefe at minimum needs to be gone before the Olympics are over. Tom Fitzgerald possibly too, but I feel like they'll keep him until the end of the season. But yeah, I think this team has needed change for a while, and I think we have to go back to this offseason or before the offseason, where Tom Fitzgerald said this won't be the same team coming back next year, right? What happened? It was the same team that came back this year, other than Connor Brown.
It was a worse team.
It was. I'd say it's probably the same team because you add
On paper, it's the
yeah,
same team, but they performed worse.
yeah. So at a certain point, you can say that yeah, it takes two to tango, but like I mean, you got to make you had to make deals this offseason to make this team better. You didn't. You needed to make deals 2 months into the season when the team was starting to already start to go downhill. You didn't. In your one move this year, you trade Andre Palat. Good. That needed to be done many months ago. And then your other trade is Nick Bukestad, who's a fourth line center for this team heading into next year. I mean, there's so much we can do to kind of give you that long leash, but at a certain point, you need to be better. And at this point, Tom Fitzgerald does need to be fired.
I We could talk about Quinn Hughes too. I mean, that debacle was the nail in the coffin, I felt, because the Devils were
And we said
begging.
that we
Of
said that at the
course,
point.
of
If you
course.
didn't get Quinn Hughes, you deserve to be fired.
And can I tell you what? There were some fans that booed Jack Hughes um, when his name was announced for the Olympics. It was mostly cheers, but some boos, and
That's
I
crazy,
I
bro.
think it's ridiculous in its own right. I thought it was ridiculous when they booed Luke the way that they did, but
Yeah,
acknowledging that that's not every fan, still, you think Quinn Hughes is in Minnesota thinking about the great opportunity it would be to come to New Jersey and play with the two of them now? I think things feel a lot different on that front than it might have a few months ago for him, and um, they needed a lifeline at that point in the season.
they
And
really
Quinn
did.
Hughes was going to be it, and they fumbled that so dramatically badly, and that's for me that was the nail in the coffin for Fitzgerald. Honestly, I don't see the point in getting firing Keefe at this point in the season. You might as well just ride it out because what difference is it going to make at this point? They've got 25 games left. I mean, it would be less time than the St. Louis Blues had to save their season in 2019 and when they went on to win the Stanley Cup after being dead last in January.
Yeah,
The Devils don't have even that much time. That was 30 something games. The Devils have 25. On paper, and I'll say this again, if Jack Hughes has a good Olympics and comes back and is healthy and the Devils start to play good hockey and this break ends up being valuable to them, there's a chance that they pick up some serious points. They haven't played the Rangers yet this season. That should be 6 points on paper. The Rangers are horrible,
yeah.
but with this Devils team, you never know. And
You play
I,
Pittsburgh twice. I'll
you
say
play
that.
Pittsburgh twice, but Pittsburgh have had the Devils number for a good portion this season. It's no longer anything optimistic. It is
Mhm.
just doom and gloom now. They've got a 4.8% chance of winning the draft lottery. They've got a 2.8% chance of making the playoffs. How? How is that even possible?
That's where we are at this season. I've seen people already do the draft simulator, and that's just where this team is, man. when you're not picking up points. Like we talk about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not even that good of a team, but they just know how to get to overtime and get that loser point. They have 12 overtime and shootout losses, 10 more points than the Devils in that category. The Devils have lost in the shootout. Well, they haven't lost in the shootout yet, but they've lost in overtime twice. That's 10 points right there. So it's just on the at a certain point, right? You can criticize the front office, the coaching, but at a certain point, you got to put blame on the players too, just not getting results. Like,
And I know I talked about this last week when we spoke, Dan. I wrote an article just in preview of the Olympics if the NHL adopted the 3-2-1 point system to kind of negate the value of the loser point, the Devils still wouldn't be better because they don't win in regulation. They've
yeah,
got, I think, what, 19 regulation wins? I have to confirm
I think it
that,
was
but
18,
either,
something
yeah,
like that.
that's
Yeah,
even worse. And now they're NHL 500, sure, but they've lost more games than they've won in the year 2025-26. That is
and remember, we started
shocking.
the season 9-1,
Yeah,
9-1. So, yeah,
it's a
like
disaster. 18 regulation wins. Um, that's only better than the New York Rangers in the division. It's tied with the Flyers, who are 3 points ahead of the Devils, 11 points out of third place in the division, and 11 points out of the second wild card. Um, and the Islanders have played one more game, but they've played the same amount of games as the Bruins, who have the second wild card.
yeah.
What a disaster! Just like I'm getting angry just saying it, and it's oof, it's brutal. It is
Yeah.
really really bad. I can't find a positive spin on it.
Because
The
there is
it
none.
There is none. If they did fire Sheldon Keefe by the end of the Olympics,
I mean, I know who I'm hiring.
the only thing it does is send a message to the players, but it's a message they already should have received, to be totally honest. And it's just been brutal to watch. And when you think that they might be clawing themselves back into a successful season, they find a way to remind everybody that this isn't the year. They every time that they look like they might be able to do something good, they just find a way to lose three or four in a row.
One step forward, three steps backward.
Yeah, literally. Whew. And now they don't even have a whole lot of cushion to go out and make a move if they really wanted to now. Um, unless Luke Hughes is out long term, and we'll
At
see
this
what
point, tell him to go get that
tell
surgery.
tell exactly tell him to get the surgery. But we don't know the extent of the injury, if he needs surgery or what exactly. It looked like a typical Hughes brothers dislocated shoulder, and I know that sounds disrespectful, but it's happened enough times where you can no longer call it a coincidence. It is a weakness of these guys. Um, Normally, that might require surgery, but it seems like they had been positioning him to make a return before the season's over. Then maybe you cash in on Dougie Hamilton's good form, which has slowed down somewhat in the last few games, but you can get an asset for him for sure,
Oh,
and
you could get a real good asset, especially
it's
how he's
it's
been
time
playing.
to explore that because the longer you wait into the off season, the less desperate teams are going to be to fork something over.
I mean that's my number one priority. This roster freeze is I'm talking to any interested party, and I'm kind of going back and forth trying to get the best deal. And once that roster freeze lifts, I think there should be a couple moves made. So, we can talk about certain guys that if we're going to be a seller, because this is going to be a seller's market. There's too many teams that are kind of still in it, right? Especially out in the West, because the West is kind of jockeying for position for wild cards, and then the East, like we talked about the East being everybody's still in it, even like with the Devils. Like yes, we're out of it, but like technically we're still mathematically in it if we went on a run, right? A crazy run. So every team in front of us definitely feels like they're still in it. So it's going to be interesting to see what teams actually sell this trade deadline, and the Devils could be a team that kind of capitalizes off of a seller's market that we're kind of envisioning so far. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
let's throw out some names then, because we spoke about Dougie and the value he could bring.
Mhm.
I think Dawson Mercer is a name that comes up a lot, and we talk about trades. Just a guy who can fill multiple roles on a team and would be valuable, and isn't the top end scorer that the Devils have been searching for. So he's a player you can move on from. But if the Devils wanted to make a big splash, I've heard Jesper Bratt be brought up. I do not think that would be a
No.
wise decision. But go ahead and give me some potential uh, assets the Devils could fork over should they want to explore some trades.
Yeah, I think someone already brought it up. I think it was Elliot Friedman that, kind of mentioned why they could have possibly made the Nick Bukestad trade, and that is to kind of replace a center that they trade out of here, and that's like if you're thinking of trades with a center, it's Cody Glass. So
Mhm.
I personally wouldn't be trading Cody Glass, but if you're able to get a first round plus equivalent for Cody Glass, I think you have to consider doing it, especially with where the team is at, right? So he's probably your other biggest name on your roster. But Evgeny Dodonov, once March 1st comes around and his full no trade is gone, send him back to Dallas because Dallas probably could use a depth forward. Like if just get him off the books. Future considerations, I don't care. Um, but yeah, Paul Cotter. Paul Cotter has been a big disappointment this year, other than the shootout. What has he done? What does he do for this team other than, pick up minuses on the fourth line? Maybe you can get a decent, day two pick or yeah, day two pick for I'm just thinking of NFL terms. Go get like a late round draft pick, like a fifth round or something for him. I mean, and then maybe even if you can, I don't know if you're gonna do it this year, but we're gonna have to start talking about Jonathan Kovacevic and trying to move him because I feel like we did talk about this when he first signed. Is we were shocked that they even gave him that extension so early in the process. It was his first real good season, and they gave him an extension in season, not even waiting to the off season. Like just imagine if we didn't sign him, right? He gets that injury, where he would be at on the books right now. He wouldn't be sitting at 5 years, 4 million AAV right now. So yeah, there's a bunch of players that they could move. Siplikov, hey, good 4 games, buddy, but we'll move you wherever you want. Wherever whoever wants to give us another late round draft pick, we'll move you out too to free up some more cap. But yeah, it's really bleak. There's not many valuable assets on this team. I'd say it's only Dougie Hamilton and Cody Glass at this point.
Oof, that does not sound great to hear. I mean, look, I don't think that it would
Movable
make.
assets, I'll add to that.
Yeah, no, no, no. I agree. I understood the distinction there. I just Nico Hischier is out of a contract at the end of next year. Is that something you think that the Devils would explore? Is moving on from the captain? I mean,
That, that would be an off-season
he's
thing.
been in trade rumors from people who are no don't have any knowledge of the situations. It's just been, the Twitter sphere doing what it does. But is there a chance you think that Nico Hischier walks at the end of 2026 or at the end of 2027, I should say?
Well, I feel like you're gonna have those conversations of obviously a new contract, right? And I believe this is going to be this upcoming off season is the last time you can negotiate 8 year contracts with your own players before the new CBA kicks in September 1st or whatever it is. Um, so if you can't get him to resign long term, you kind of have to move him. You gotta get like a premium package for a guy like Nico Hischier, but personally, I think he'll resign. I think he is the captain. You're gonna give him what his value is, and obviously that's gonna be the first guy that goes over 10 million in New Jersey, just where the cap is going these days, where it's gonna be, you know, over 104 million next season, and it's gonna keep skyrocketing after that. So yeah, I think he's gonna be. I feel like he's gonna resign, but yeah, we have to get to that point where if he doesn't end up resigning, yeah, you're gonna have to move him, and that's gonna be a tough conversation for a lot of fans.
It's tough just talking about it right now.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the Devils roster. They've only got, I believe, three forwards who are a plus on the season. Cody
not good.
Glass, who has played 45 games, and then the other two have only played nine. Lenny Hamanaho and Angus Crookshank. Crookshank's only played eight, and he's got one goal, 1 point for a +1. His average ice time 7:30 a game. No, 8:36 a game.
Was that
So there
Crookshank?
you have it. I mean, just not. It's just not been good. It's just
No.
nothing has been operating the way that they'd hoped. Jake Allen had an assist on Heishire's goal last night,
Got
which
more
means
points than that enough.
he has more points on the season than Evgeny Dodonov, who played on the first line last night and has played in 17 games, has been fighting through injury this season, admittedly, but still, for
He
him
is,
to be the veteran presence that you brought in the offseason to like be a solid middle six secondary
he had 20
scorer.
goals last year.
Yeah, he had 20 goals last year.
He had 40 points, and he has zero. I mean, when I watch him, like he really does look washed. Cause like his line mates will set him up in positions to take a shot, drive the net or something, and he either doesn't take it, the puck pops off his stick, or he turns, and resets. I mean, I don't think I've seen him once this year have a dangerous scoring opportunity on the stick himself. So I mean, it was a good bet to try to get him on that 1 million AAV with bonuses, but it just hasn't worked out.
You could look around the roster and you could say that about every player, though.
Yeah,
Like Timo Myers on 28 points through 52 games, 14 goals, 14 assists. This guy was brought in to be a regular 30 goal scorer. And, right now it looks like he's barely going to get past 20. Um, Jesper Bratt, he's only got 13 goals. I mean, he's got 28 assists, which is solid, but he needs to score more. He's
if
got to
he
score
scored
more
a
goals.
breakaway, if he scored a breakaway, he'd have 20, 25 goals right
And
now.
that's his strength. His strength
It
is
was a
being one
shootout.
on one.
Yeah, the shootout.
Um, boy, and Connor Brown, who like it was a good move to get Connor Brown, but for him to be your sixth best scorer on the season, that's just not. It's not what he was brought in to do.
No.
It's just not. It's not fair to him to have that sort of expectation on him. And Cody Glass has been a revelation when he's been healthy. Um, but like you said, Dan, he might be one of the only guys you can actually afford to trade and get something solid in return, at least this year. I think you've had a regression in terms of a guy like Jonas Siegenthaler, who hasn't been as good as he can be. Meanwhile, Colton White has come in and has been quite good, but
Hmm.
not good enough to break into this blue line consistently, unfortunately for him. And then you guys got guys like Stefan Nason, who played through injury, and Luke Hughes, who I think has been unfairly criticized at times, but he didn't play in that preseason camp because they had to deal with his contract, and that
Yeah.
clearly affected him. And Nason, it was the opposite way, where he fought his way through the preseason and didn't rehab an injury that he should have earlier. And
Yeah.
he's only got 7 points and hasn't played in a while. Like it's just so many things went wrong. Kovacevic, they coming in injured through this season.
He's
He's not
he
100%, and
he's looked terrible.
they're expecting him to be the same guy he was the last season, and that's not fair to him.
And what did I
They
what did
they
I
were
say
not
when
prepared to deal with these issues to the roster all season long, and I still have some criticisms otherwise about guys that we weaved in from Utica. Like I think Brian Hallinan should have been given more than just
he
nine
should still
games.
be up here?
He like you're telling me Paul Cotter can do a better job in the fourth line than Brian Hallinan?
No.
I
Not at
I
all.
fully disagree with that, at least from what we've seen this year. So I have criticisms up the wazoo for this team and just stylistically what they've done right and wrong. They haven't dealt with any bounces. And
Yeah.
that speaks to the character of the team. That speaks to the attitude. And unfortunately, as we know from Remember the Titans, attitude reflects leadership.
Yeah.
And that's gotta mean that Tom Fitzgerald and Sheldon Keefe have to go. And they should look at the leadership apparatus within the locker room. because Nico Hischier, I think, is a great captain. I really do think that. Um, is he the most vocal guy? Probably not.
No.
He's a more lead by example type of guy. But after him, we heard Brendan Dillon talk about how, it's not, they're not like a big rah rah group in the locker room. I'm like, why not? Every
Yeah,
hockey team I
they
played for was rah rah. Even when we stunk, like that's just what hockey is. You got to have some of that vocal.
they need more
And look, we're
emotion.
not
That's
in the
what they
locker room
need.
all day, but and this is not to pile on Nico Hischier, but the other A's are Jack Hughes, who is a lead by example type of guy, and Andre Palat, who is that quiet veteran
And
presence
now
that they've
Jesper
traded,
Bratt.
and now it's Bratt who's only been given the A sparingly. He hasn't been given it permanently, only when Jack Hughes wasn't playing. Um, for me, that they've got to add another big sort of veteran presence who can also be a guy that scores goals. And when we talk about that, Dan, the three top end forwards that we keep coming back to and keep identifying as really good candidates to be the supplemental pieces in the top six to help this team, Stamkos would provide that role for sure.
Yeah.
You'd have Ryan O'Reilly would do it. Kadri would disrupt the locker room in a way that I feel is necessary. And then even Jordan Kyrou, I think, wouldn't necessarily bring the leadership we talked about, but he would challenge the other guys in the top six to elevate their game just because he's that good of a player. I think at this point in the season, it's too late to make that move. They've shot themselves in the foot now because they've
Yeah.
they've waited too long to say that they could still do something in this season. 25 games, that's 50 points on the table. I don't think they're going to get 25 points in their final 25 games.
They would need to even have like a remote chance. They would need to win 20 out of their 25 games. And like, can this team on paper do that? Of course they can, but not with the confidence that they're rocking right now. I mean, it they have negative confidence at this point. They don't know what to do. And we've talked for months about this team needing to go do the trade. When we first brought it up about Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly, right? That's where they needed to go make that move. Because what are they doing now? Steven Stamkos is one of the best goal scorers in the league right now. This season, he's on fire, scoring. So what is it going to cost to go buy him now? And you're definitely not going to get Nashville to eat money on that. So like that's going to cost you an arm, a leg, and a couple fingers on your other hand to go do that move now. Ryan O'Reilly, the same thing. He's on fire. Like these Nashville guys that were down in the dumps a couple months ago. We talked about Ryan O'Reilly seemingly being like having no confidence in his game when he was still producing at a good clip. I mean, they're hitting their peak though, individually at least. Those players are hitting their marks and Kadri as well. Like what's Kadri gonna cost now? Like with a lot of teams needing second line centers, like top six centers, like he's gonna cost multiple firsts basically. So and I feel like, we are at a point where Tom Fitzgerald is probably like a sliver away from being fired, right? I think this is the
I think
point.
he's past Sliver from being fired. I think he's gone in this offseason.
And you know what? I bet you he does something really drastic at this deadline. I think he goes and spends quality assets for something and some people might not like it, but I think that's where he is at the stage of his tenure where he thinks he's probably at a point where he might not be here next year. So, what do these assets mean to him? And whether that is a Kadri, whether that is a Stamkos, I don't know. I think I would be in favor of trading for a young, you know, budding superstar. But what guys are there right now to go get? I heard Robert Thomas might be on the block. If he's the guy that Fitzgerald goes and gets, and spends heavy premium assets, okay, I'm fine with that because he'll be here for, he'll be part of the core going forward. But if it's on a Ryan O'Reilly or a Stamkos just to, be a patch, kind of fix it for this year, make a push, that would be unacceptable. And that would be, something to get you fired. You can't be doing that. So it's going to be interesting what they do when this roster freeze, kind of list itself because we there was a rumor out there that they were close to making a deal with Montreal to acquire Patrick Laine and get sweeteners coming in
Right.
to take on that the last year of Patrick Laine's contract. So I think they're open to doing everything. And if there's a deal out there to go get someone like a Robert Thomas, or if they are going to be a seller and they're going to go get assets for taking on contracts from other teams, I think they're going to be doing that too. So Tom Fitzgerald right now is very unpredictable, and he might not even do anything. Like we might go through this trade deadline, he doesn't do anything again, and so we are where we are in the season, and we are in the dumps, and I don't know what they're gonna do. They should be sellers, but they could ultimately be like one of the biggest buyers at this deadline.
It's also Patrick Laine's played 5 games this year, right?
Yeah,
Like even that would be a ridiculous snap kind of move that it's a desperation move, and I think
I mean,
they should avoid that now.
but
They're not.
but it's just for
It's too late.
it would be for the whatever they were gonna give us to take on that contract,
A hundred
right?
percent.
Now we don't know what that would have been. Would it be equivalent to a first? More than that? I don't know. Like
No.
if you're getting like a prospect like a Michael Hage, which definitely wasn't on the table, you would definitely do that. But it was probably going to be like something like a second plus a third, right, to take on that contract for the year. And if you think you're just going to be sellers at the deadline, go ahead and do that. But I think that fell through for other reasons. But I think that just shows you where we're at in the season, where this team thinks they're going to be sellers.
I would sincerely advise Tom Fitzgerald not to make a desperation move now because
Oh, we're gonna see it. We're
the
gonna see
season's not
something.
worth saving. It's just not. It you think that let's say that they find a way to trade Dougie Hamilton or Luke Hughes is on long term IR, so they have the money to spend, and they bring in even a Stamkos and a Kadri, like the most hypothetical of hypotheticals. You think they make the playoffs?
No.
No. So what's the point? They shouldn't throw away what assets they have now just to waste the final year of someone's contract. Like,
Yeah.
even if they're not in their final year of their contract, this is not a recipe for success. They've got 25 games left. Let's see if they can come out of the Olympic break with some momentum. Let's say Jack Hughes has good Olympics, Bratt has a good Olympics, Markstrom gets some time in goal for the Swedes or whatever, and they have some confidence going into the break. Switzerland punches above their weight, and you get Siegenthaler, Meyer, and Hischier all smiling with the final 25 games of the season, and that's if everything goes right.
Yeah.
Even then, I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But that should be the challenge. The guys who are already here, what difference can they make in the final 25 games of the season? And if they at least make a good push and make some people proud of how they finished the year, it's not going to undo the damage that was done between mid-November and now.
Yeah.
So it's been beyond time to wave the white flag. It's been nice to have a couple of winning streaks, whether it's on the road or right at the new year like they did have, and it was fun to believe again for a few minutes there. But it's time to get real, and
Yeah.
it's been a disaster. I think that's just about where we can leave it. I mean, in these
Nothing
final
else to
20,
talk about,
there's nothing
really.
else to talk
So
about. Like these final 25 games, do I think they'll perform a little better than they have with a break? Sure, but other teams get this break too,
mhm.
and it's not going to go as well as it needs to for them to make the playoffs. So Dan, thanks for lamenting this horrible season thus far with me today. Um, we're going to talk some Olympic hockey next. So don't leave the channel. Both of these videos will be up at around the same time. So thank you guys for watching. And if you're on
Thank
um,
you.
Spotify or Amazon, thank you for listening. This has been Puck on the Parkway for Dan Rebane. I've been James Burley. Hopefully, we'll see you guys with a smile on our face next time. Take care.